no disagreement to that, and presuming everything I know is accurate about the conditions out there. So basically, it would be a turnkey operation in the future. So the Gutierrez paid a lot of money for the property. This property was publicly bid back in, I want to say 2000, 2002, and everybody overbid. So I think they've been shoulder to shoulder with us to date. As you know, it's been a payment of $1.5 million that kind of fell out of the sky on us a few weeks ago from the IG's office. So we've agreed to pay that $1.5 million. That goes to the town, by the way, as you know, in addition to everything else we've outlined. So we've just got to make sure we can keep everything in balance here. Again, we've been sharing a lot of the costs with Gutierrez, and they've made a pretty big commitment considering the condition of the office market. But they've been around for 30 years, and they're one of the few companies that land banks permitted property, and they're ready to react. And I know they've actively been showing that property to folks right now, and hopefully something good will come out of it sooner than later. Because we want to see the property next door developed. We're making an enormous investment. It's over a $60 million investment there we're making. Obviously, we want to protect our investment and be part of the community in North Reading and to see the site next door get developed. Because ultimately, someday in the future, I think the quarry sites will all be developed way down the road at some point. I mean, it's inevitable at some point. You know, most that lands in Wilmington, something close in North Reading, I believe. But so.
Anyone else have questions?
Not much.
Not much, but quite a bit today.
Anyone else? Mr. Torres? Well, thank you very much, John.
Thank you, and we'll be, again, the subcommittee meetings are open to the public to advertise, so we'll look forward to seeing folks there. And we'll come back with a more detailed presentation at the right moment, particularly as we get into more of the design issues and really start get into the details of the project and hoping folks visualize it. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. I'd like to suggest a 5-minute recess. Okay. On the appointments, reappointments, I think Mrs. Bailey asked to make a statement.
Now public candy now.
I'm sorry, I have something in my
I apologize. I guess just a couple of things that I would like to clarify or state. One is that Mr. Norton does not live in the historic district. He may live in a historic home, but he does not live in the historic district. Mrs. Franza lives in the historic district and thus is the resident who's appointed as called for in the bylaw to the Historic District Commission. I did speak with Mrs. DeFranza, as Mr. Giordina said she does support Mr. Norton's appointment. However, the procedure, I guess I'd just like to share with the board the procedure I've followed since being on the board as liaison when I'm going toward appointments, and I don't know if this is what other members have followed. And I frankly don't even remember if someone instructed me to do it this way, but this is the way I've done it. When there's a seat open, even if someone new applies, I always go to Karen Marlin, the board secretary, and I think we had decided by policy a while back that that the citizens' activity records would remain active for 3 years. I get all the active citizens' activity records, old, 2 years and 364 days old till the one that was filed yesterday. I call all the folks with an activity record and I inquire as to whether they still wish to be considered. And if they wish to be considered, their names are put on the appointment list. If I'm not going to recommend them, I usually inform them of that. If I know that, sometimes it takes a call back as a courtesy, so I don't have to bring their name into public debate if they don't wish that, if they're not going to be appointed anyway. but I do that as a courtesy. So I guess if that wasn't done in this case, and other members feel that that's the way it's usually done, other longer term members, I would request that the file be gone back to. I would still think, being that Mr. Solomon expressed a desire to be reappointed and he wasn't, to me that was still expressing a desire to be a member of the Historic District Commission, and that as liaison I would have called him and anyone else active in the file, including Mr. Norton, and said, do you still wish to be on the commission? And also as part of my process I consult with the chair of whichever committee or commission I'm appointing to make sure that they're comfortable with it and that we're both comfortable. And I've had healthy debate with many a chair over who should be appointed, but usually we can come to some comfort level. So that's how I've done it. So if there are other, if there are other active candidates, I think that procedure to be equitable among all boards and commissions should be undertaken. And I guess lastly, I know Mr. Norton. I've been acquainted with him personally. I think he's very intelligent and energetic, as you said, and would generally be a fine member of this or any other commission. I do think that he may need to file a disclosure if there are any decisions that come up regarding. I know Ryer's store itself is not in the historic district, but if there's a talk of moving the building, I understand that may have been abandoned, but if there's anything regarding Ryer's that comes to the district's attention, because his wife is the manager of the store, I would just make sure that he's informed to file a disclosure and to recuse himself probably from such decisions. But I guess that I would prefer that the same process is gone through for every board, board appointed position. And if that hasn't been gone through, I would like to defer it and wait till that procedure has been gone through. Thank you.
Mr. O'Leary?
Just as a follow-up as to how I've handled it is similarly, say they contact all of the active applicants and get as courtesy and tell them what recommendation I might be making. And also ask them if they want their name to be considered at that particular time for nomination, knowing that, or if the timing is right or not right. And then I also ask them if they don't want the name considered at that particular time, do they want to keep the citizen activity form active?
Yes, I asked that.
then notify Karen and say, start the clock ticking 3 more years, so that you keep an active file. I mean, that's just how I've done it over the years I've done that.
And by the way, that is consistent with what you and I have discussed in the past on other things when you call me and ask me about things. So, that's true.
So, some people's citizen activity forms were filed 9 years ago, 10 years ago, but they still want to remain interested in consideration.
Especially the Hillview.
Especially the Hillview in particular. We have some people's applicants put on it for a long time. But they might not have their name put forth because they feel as though the incumbents might be deserving of reappointment, but they still want their name to be made active as a vacancy.
Mr. Bino?
First, I'd like to ask a question, because I just want to get it clear. Our Historic District Commission is 5 members, correct?
No.
No, it's not 5?
Seven.
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 Okay. That's what I'm trying to. Okay. All right. Okay, that answers my first question. As far as the appointment, reappointment issue, had I known this was going to be on the agenda, I would not be opposed to it. If I had seen in my packet there was 2 names there, I would not. I'm not faulting anyone that it's not there, but I wasn't prepared. If in fact there was another name there, I may have wanted to contact that person, and I didn't have that opportunity to do it. So I would say I'm in favor of just voting for the one for a person, for the one person tonight, as the motion reads.
Mr. Chair?
Me? Mr.
Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Deddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that I have done it in the manner in which you have suggested, okay? To suggest that it has not been done that way, I think is incorrect. allow me to finish, okay? I have talked to Karen about this, I've discussed it with Karen about this. As far as I am concerned, there are no open activity requests. Mr. Solomon put in a request to be reappointed, which is a different form. It's not the same form, okay? And in that form, it asks to be reappointed. He was not reappointed. I do not believe that's an open application. However, what I would suggest is that rather than hurt a gentleman who everybody seems to have said positive things about, okay, that we allow this man to be reappointed. I will follow up with Karen and with Barbara to make sure, to see whether that current document that is filed by Mr. Solomon is a citizen's activity report. I will call Mr. Solomon. Mr. Solomon has indicated in reports that have been in the newspaper that he is not interested in continuing public service. However, I will call him, be glad to call him for the next meeting, and if he is interested, okay, then we'll deal with that appropriately. Okay, it's not unusual for this board to appoint an open position in this manner, okay, due to an oversight, as Mr. Leary has suggested. Okay, so therefore I think we ought to go ahead with Mr. Norton, allow Mr. Norton to be appointed. Okay, and I will follow up in the area you have suggested. I have not, however, there are no, as far as I am concerned, there are no open citizens activity applications for the Historic District Commission. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Bailey, that I made the mistake of indicating that Mr. Norton was in the historic. I was thinking that it was a historic home. Yes, Sam.
Mrs. Bailey.
I was just wondering if Mr. Dardino had spoken with, there's an alternate, at least one, and maybe more, but one that I know of, alternate member of the Historic District Commission, and given that person.
Associate member. You're not putting an application as far as I know.
But did you,
Full position.
did you call her? You said you recruited Mr. Norton. Did you call her to ask her if she'd like to move up to full membership?
I did not. She didn't put an application, and I did not ask her.
Is that generally, that's another procedure that I have followed? I know if there's, an associate member, to give them, I guess, the courtesy of asking, and I don't appoint without, I instruct them that they need to come in. If they say, yes, I'm interested, that they need to come in and fill out a citizen's activity record, and I don't make the recommendation about that because I realize that we need some basis of record and a piece of paper for everyone to look at, but I would ask that you speak with her.
I didn't speak to her directly, but others have spoke to her and told her that she could put in an application. She wanted that there were positions open. She's not put an application at this time, as far as I know. Karen, so I've spoken with Karen. She's told me this is the only application on file at this time, and that's why that was the only name listed. And I believe that's the answer.
Well, I guess I want to be through, but I guess I just need to disagree philosophically with one thing, that it hasn't been, I would think that if you would go into the file for any longtime member of any appointed board, you probably wouldn't find a current citizens activity record, because when they're asked to be reappointed, they're not asked to fill out another citizens activity record. So it wouldn't surprise me if Mr. Solomon didn't have one dated 3 years, but kind of, your service on the committee, I guess is philosophically keeping you active. And like I said, I would bet that we would go back and any member who's been on a committee or commission for longer than 3 years probably doesn't have one. And I consider their service and their interest to be reappointed as the, as the indication of their interest.
Mr. Chairman, I concur with that philosophy. And the same goes for associate members, people who are actively involved, attending, participating on a regular basis, showing their level of interest. I would anticipate that there's a vacancy that would be considered, unless they